y'all, today we're making Just Add Water dinner rolls. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to need is a quart jar. So for this mix, we're going to put it all in this jar. You can give it as gifts, you can store it on your shelf for however long you want to, or you can just use this recipe and make some dinner rolls. So what I'm adding to my jar is 1.5 teaspoons of salt. And you want to put your salt and sugar away from your yeast, okay? So 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and then we added in 2 tablespoons of sugar. And now we're going to add in some flour. We're going to do 3.5 cups of all-purpose flour. I know that somebody's going to say you need to use a spoon and pick it up and, spoon it into your cup and all that. I don't find that this particular recipe needs super accurate measurements. I mean, get it as close as you can, your 3.5 cups, but I haven't found that I needed weights for this. So just in case anybody, is thinking you really need to weigh it. I mean, if you want to figure out what the weight is and weigh it, you absolutely can. But measuring out 3.5 cups will work just fine for this recipe. So, like I said, I separate my yeast from everything else, but I forgot to put in my powdered milk. So I'm going to put it in the top. And then I'm just going to mix it in. I don't think, honestly, that powdered milk is going to matter next to yeast, but I don't like putting anything next to my yeast. So I'm adding in here 2 tablespoons of powdered milk. I'm using the instant non-fat. If you have the whole milk powder, it's fine. Use whatever you have. And then I'm just kind of mixing it down into the flour so that I don't end up putting my yeast just directly on top of the milk powder. So, but like I said, if you're going to do this, I would put all the ingredients on the bottom and then the flour and then the yeast. Or you can put the yeast on the bottom and then the flour and everything else on top, whichever way you want to do it. So I am using instant yeast. I like to buy these big packets. They come vacuum sealed and I store them in the freezer. And then once I open them, I will take what I have in this bag and put it into a jar and just keep it in my refrigerator. So I'm adding in 2 1/4 teaspoons of the instant yeast, or you can add 1 packet. That's how much is in a packet. And then we're just going to seal this up and it's good to go. Stick it on your shelf for whenever you want to make dinner rolls. So now I'm going to show you how to make it. And the recipe will be down in the description box for y'all, the printable recipe. So I'm going to dump the contents of my jar into my bowl. Now this jar I made a few months before I actually cooked it. So you see that big clump that fell out? That was just the salt and sugar that I had put in the bottom. Sometimes it'll kind of clump like that because I packed it down really tight, but it's fine. So when you're ready to make them, dump the contents of your jar into your bowl, and then you're going to add 1 1/4 cups of warm water. Your water needs to be about 110 to 115 degrees. If it's really cool, then it really won't help activate your yeast, and if it's too hot, it will kill your yeast. So make sure that you don't, if you have a way to measure the temperature, check the temperature, do that, okay? So then you're just going to put this in your stand mixer with the dough hook, and you're going to let this go. Once it mixes up, I let it go for another 6 to 8 minutes. If you don't have a stand mixer, you can do this by hand. You're going to want to mix it up really good with your spoon or whatever you're mixing with, and then you're going to knead it by hand for 6 to 8 minutes. So if you're going to use the stand mixer 6 to 8 minutes, if you do it by hand, you need to do it for the same amount of time. We want it to be a little tacky, but not stick to our hands, okay? So once your dough has kneaded the length of time it needs to, we're going to put it into a greased bowl. You can put butter, you can use regular oil, you can use cooking spray like I'm doing, just a little light coating so that it doesn't stick to your bowl. And you can just take it out and put it right back into your stand mixer. But normally when I'm doing stuff like this, I have several things I'm doing at once, so I needed my mixing bowl for something else. So then I put just a tiny bit of spray on top just in case it rises high enough to touch the plastic. And then I cover it up and I sit it in a warm place for about an hour or until it doubles in size. So once your dough has doubled, you can punch it down if you want to. I just work the bubbles out after, as I'm doing this. You're going to dump it out onto whatever surface you're using, and then you need to divide this into 12 pieces. Now, ideally, you could measure each of your little pieces to make sure all of your dinner rolls are exactly the same size. If I was like selling these or doing it for, something like that, then I would do that. But this is for my house and my family, so I'm not worried about whether one roll's a little smaller than another one. So I'm just using my bench scraper here, my dough scraper. Bench scraper? Dough, yeah. And I'm just dividing my dough into 12 pieces. However you can get it into 12 pieces is fine. If you can sit there and just squeeze out 12 pieces and get them pretty close to even, you can. I can't do that. I'm terrible with, like eyeballing and measuring stuff. You're going to see in a minute, I have some small ones, some big ones, but it's fine. I mean, as long as they're roughly the same size, then they will cook just fine. So then you're going to take each little piece and you're going to form it whatever way you want to form it. I like to pick it up, smooth it out, and kind of pinch it at the bottom. And then I just put my hand over it, kind of cup it real loose, and then just roll it around. And that kind of helps seal the bottom edges to where it doesn't just pop back open. So then you're going to need a 9x13 pan, and I had a little bit of butter left over in here from something else. So I'm just going to rub my pan with butter. Now, personally, I prefer in rolls and bread, if I'm going to use butter like this to put in the bottom or to rub on top, I like to do a salted butter because it gives it a little bit more flavor. But you can absolutely use unsalted butter if you want to. So you're just going to roll each of your little rolls up, and then you're going to place them down in your pan. Just kind of spread them out a little bit evenly. We're going to let them rise again, so they're going to puff up. So you don't have to worry about trying to get them right up on top of each other. So you're just going to keep going, like I said, until you get all of your little rolls made. And then once you get them all made and into your pan, you're going to take a little bit more of that butter, and you're just going to rub a little butter on the top of these rolls. You don't necessarily have to do this step. You can put a little bit of milk if you want to. A lot of people use milk or a little egg wash or whatever. My rolls never, ever, ever brown evenly, and I think it's my oven. But you'll see it in a minute. But anyway, once you brush it with whatever you want to brush it with, I recommend butter because butter is just good. You're going to cover these back up. I love these plastic bowl covers. I'll try to remember to link these for y'all. I have small ones and large ones, and I love the large ones for these bigger containers like this, like the bigger pans and stuff. So once you get this covered up, you're going to sit it in a warm place again for about 30 to 40 minutes, just until your little rolls puff up a little bit. And I was showing y'all I had used those to cover cinnamon rolls, and so there was a little cinnamon stuck to the top of my plastic cover. So this is what they look like when they're nice and puffed up. Then we're going to bake these at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for about 15 to 18 minutes. Until they're lightly browned, okay? And you see how uneven mine are? And it actually is more uneven on camera than it is in real life. But I don't know why mine does that. Like I said, I think it's my oven. I think I need a new oven, y'all. But while they're hot, I brush them with, guess what? More butter, of course, because this softens them up. Now, a lot of people just throw like a towel over it and the steam softens them. But honey, if you can add a little extra butter, add a little extra butter on there. That just makes them extra good. So they're very hot, so I'm going to burn my fingerprints off for y'all so y'all can see the inside. So that's what they look like on the inside. They look a little weird. I'm going to show you close up in just a second this particular roll that I picked. And I started to get a different one, but I wanted to show y'all the way that I rolled them up with my hand when I was first making, little dough balls. I had extra little pieces of dough in there, and that's why it looks kind of funny right there in the middle. See, right there? But these are super, super soft and fluffy, and they are so good, y'all. So if you don't have a dinner roll recipe, let me get a little taste. Make sure that you make these. And like I said, you can do these in the jar and just have, give them as gifts, or just have some on your shelf for whenever you want to make rolls and you don't feel like dragging everything out. or you can just make the recipe just like it is and cook them fresh right then. All right, that is all that I have for y'all today, and I will catch y'all on the next one. Bye, y'all.